please play Bloodborne. We're here to talk about Bloodborne. Bloodborne is arguably one of the greatest video games ever created. It is the top reason for owning a PlayStation instead of any other alternative, probably the greatest of the PlayStation exclusives, which coincides with that. Bloodborne is just a masterpiece. It's unarguably a masterpiece. There's so many good things about it that I really don't even know where to start. What I'm going to do is tell you my story and why I think that you should play Bloodborne, along with the other Soulsborne games from Software that I never got around to playing when I was younger. I'll start with the story I have. I wanted to make this video for a long time, and actually this is a remaster of the original version that I made years and years ago, so it's been a lot of time since I initially beat the game for the first time. But I've wanted to talk about it in this way since I first beat it, because it was so revolutionary for me. Especially when I was younger, I was never ever into games that were difficult. I played games on easy difficulty, and I was in it for the story. I still am a huge fan of story and story games, but I feel like I respect the challenge of a video game much more now, especially after playing the Souls games, which I think do challenge in the most perfect fashion of all video games. But I wasn't ever into difficult games initially. I wanted an easy experience. I wanted it for the story. I wanted to feel powerful and just not to have to struggle that much for it. Now, as I got older, I still wanted to play those story games. Anytime it was like going back to watch a movie, like replaying a story game. But I thought maybe the games were too easy. Once you know the formula, you can kind of just do it. So every now and then, I would replay games that I had played before on harder difficulties, just slightly harder. Maybe I would step it up to normal or medium. And on the games that I was actually pretty good at, maybe I would try a hard difficulty out. It never really went that well for me. Fast forward a little bit of time. This would have been in the late 20-teens now, but it's getting hard to keep track of time. But in the late 20-teens, at some point, PlayStation Plus releases Bloodborne as a free game for one of its monthly free PlayStation exclusives. If you don't know, obviously PlayStation releases like 2 or 3 free games a month that anyone with a PS Plus subscription can download and have. Now they even have additional tiers where you can get like more. But Bloodborne was one of those games, so I jumped on it. I picked it up. I usually pick up most of the PlayStation exclusives. I think I'd heard of it before, so I was interested in playing it a little bit, and I figured I'd give it a download. Most of the time that PlayStation gives away its free monthly games, I choose to download them just to have them in my library in case I ever end up being interested. So I downloaded it, I kept it in my library, and that was the beginning of all of this. Now, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I knew eventually, or I heard at some point that the game was based on Lovecraft's work. That's H.P. Lovecraft. This is not the point of the video, but if you are interested in Lovecraftian horror, then that was what initially got me interested in wanting to play the game. I was like, oh, this is a cool concept. It would be cool to see a game based around the Lovecraftian concept because I'm a fan of it. I've read Lovecraft. I'm a fan of that kind of horror, those stories, movies. There's lots of stuff within that universe. And so it initially created this moderate interest where I said, okay, I'm going to try to play this sometime. So soon after downloading the game, maybe a week or two, I jumped in and I gave it a try. I had no concept of From Software or their kind of game formula, Dark Souls, none of it. So I was going into this all new. I just remember having like so many problems the first time that I tried to play this. It felt like weird. It felt unrefined. I was confused where I was at. I was like, this introductory cutscene tells me nothing. I have no idea what's going on. How am I supposed to get interested in this game? So I tried to play a little bit. I died right off the bat, obviously, to the first enemy that I didn't know you were supposed to die to. Then you wake up in the dream. I'm pretty sure that the first time I played, I wasn't even able to equip my weapon, so I couldn't even figure out how the menu system worked to equip my weapons, and I just ended up putting the game down. I ended up quitting and coming back to it later. Maybe the second time I came back to it was like a month later or something like that. I just kept jumping on because I was like, okay, I forgot about this game and I want to figure out how to play it. And so it was just this weird game to me, and I was in the mood to play something, and so I ended up coming back to it. And I think the second time around, I figured out how to equip my weapons, and so we got into it a little bit. Now, there's a different style of control to these games than any other video game. Even games that have a similar concept to their fighting, like dodge, block, and attack, it just feels totally different. There's a different amount of spacing and stamina management that needs to go into playing a From Software or Souls, I think they call them Souls-like games now, than any other game, and I just didn't get it at the time. I was having a hard time killing basic enemies. I was flying through healing items, just trying to stay alive. It was difficult. I was dying. I got fed up, and I left. Then a long time goes by. I think it goes a year, maybe more. It goes at least a year because I switched jobs and all kinds of crazy stuff in between. I remembered that I had this game, and I think that I was scrolling through YouTube one day and I saw a video about it. So I ended up watching somebody do a video, and I just saw the way they were playing the game. I saw they were fighting in the video, and it was a different way than I remembered doing. So I decided to look up a guide, a walkthrough. I know that anybody who is the get good style of person, which is definitely not how I am, will tell you that you can't look up a guide. But the whole point of this video is to encourage you to play this game for the experience. So I'm not going to say that you just have to get good and suck it up, because I don't believe that that's true. There's a whole learning curve to these games, and I want people to get over it so that they can experience what I've experienced and what other people have experienced. With Elden Ring out now, like, I originally wrote this before Elden Ring came out, and I think so many more people are getting introduced to these older games now because of it. But Bloodborne has become my favorite video game of all time, and so I think it's absolutely fair to use a guide, because it took me a guide to figure out the game, to like understand what it was, especially as my first time to From Software. So I watched somebody play through like the first part of the game. I was just so interested, and then I started to enjoy it. I was like, the story is so cool, the bosses are so cool. Watching people who are good at it just shows you how to play it a little bit, and you start to see the formula more. So I ended up going back to it, and it's just a phenomenal feeling. I went through the first mission and I could do it. Every other time that I picked up the game, I had never made it to the first boss, like nowhere close. So to pick it up and be able to just kind of figure out how to distance enemies and grasp a couple of core mechanics was the big movement that caused me to be able to play these games. Then of course the feeling of beating the first boss is incredible, and then you get to the second boss, who everybody knows is the learning curve, the real learning curve boss in Bloodborne, and I thought the first boss was difficult, but the second boss is where you have to actually get good, because it's fast and it's hard and it's up front on you. I think it took me 2 days. I tried it for like hours one day, Father Gascon, and I went to bed and I got up in the morning and I came down and then I beat it. And just that feeling. Everybody knows this feeling, the feeling of finally beating the difficult bosses in the From Software games, Bloodborne especially. Aside from just my story, I feel like I should talk about why it's such a masterpiece. You have this From Software style that's just amazing. You have this different way of storytelling, and it's so fascinating. You're stumbling across bosses in areas that make no sense, enemies that make no sense. You have to read item descriptions to figure out what's going on if you even want to, especially for a horror-esque game like Bloodborne. You're scared, you're lost, you're in fear of dying all the time, you're in fear of losing everything that you have, and you're also afraid of what the heck you're going to run into next. Along with that, what I think is a really perfect combat system. You have such an assortment of weapons to use and styles to play. Everything feels so balanced and completely fair. I never felt cheated playing Bloodborne once I understood it. I never felt like it was unfair. I mean, I'll probably say that sometimes when I'm playing through and something happens, it makes me angry. These games will make you angry, but it's just part of them. It simply is part of it. There is almost like a masochistic idea in the community where everybody just wants to suffer because these games are difficult. Some people go in and do crazy things like doing the whole game without armor, without using abilities. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. Even as many years are passed, I do a little bit more of that. I do a little bit of speedrunning and stuff, but I am getting significantly better at the game, and I'm just enjoying playing it so much. This is funny because I'm reading this back like way later in time from when I initially wrote this script years ago, and I'm just so much better at Bloodborne now. I've played it so many times. So the main purpose of this video is for people who have never touched a From Software game. This is my message to you. Please go play Bloodborne. Please play Bloodborne because you can beat it. I was horrible. I was atrocious. It just takes learning the system, and once you learn the system, you will love it. I want people to know that there's no shame in needing a guide or needing help to get through these games because they're hard games. There is no shame in having to ask for help because we want to get through the game. We don't want people to chicken out. I just want as many people as possible to experience this game. I have to start with Bloodborne because it's my favorite. It's where I started, and I think other people can start there too. You can beat it and you can enjoy it. So I guess that's it. I will finish off with this. Please play Bloodborne. You can beat it. As a little epilogue, I made this video ages ago on a terrible microphone with terrible, it's just so many things. I was such a different person back then, and so many years have passed now. And I've made like theological analysis on the channel where I dive really deeply into the lore of some From Software games, and I've been working through, over the course of like a year, I've been working on a theological analysis of Bloodborne. For those of you who've watched Dark Souls and Elden Ring theological analysis on my channels, you'll know how passionate I am, but Bloodborne being my favorite has been so hard for me. I'm so confused at what to say. Like I'm actually like tangentially afraid of like messing something up. It's really weird. I'm having such a weird time trying to put together a theological analysis. So I don't know if I'll release this before or after the theological analysis. I don't know if I'll wait to finish it, but I'm recording this again now and updated again to go with the Bloodborne theological analysis because I still want to encourage people to experience the game. And I'm thinking of doing a small scale guide. I mentioned doing this all the way back then, but now that I'm more mature, even better at this game, I've now played through almost all of them except Sekiro, like literally every From Software except Sekiro and a couple of Souls-likes as well. many times. So I'm just so more qualified than ever before to like go back now that it's way later too. Like now that it's like post Elden Ring, and maybe some people got into Elden Ring and like we're trying to figure out, maybe they rage quit that game. There's so many walkthroughs and guides for that, but I just feel like an introductory segment to From Software in general, like how do you play, what is a From Software game, and then what makes each game unique? Like this is what makes Bloodborne unique. I want to do that kind of video. Like I want to do an intro to concept and then possibly a full walkthrough for each of these games. Possibly a please play video for each of these games is just something I'm thinking about. So I'm curious if people would watch that, especially if even if you've already been through the game, like if you would just love like a beginner friendly kind of like, you know, let's start from the beginning of what makes these games so good and let's talk about it and like cover it for people who don't understand, and then they can kind of come in and understand these games. That's where I feel like my passion is at right now. And so I'm just thinking about, when I'm thinking about what to do on the channel, I'm thinking of the theological analysis I'm working on, and then I'm thinking of putting some maybe like walkthroughs or something in between, and just having more content related to these games that I love so much. I'm not really sure, because some of my other videos have been on different topics and I'm just not sure what I want to work on, but my passion is there for this, and so I feel like I want to pour into it and just work on that a bit. So anyways, if you have been watching this video, if you're at all familiar with the channel, if you're not familiar with the channel, you're completely new here, I would really appreciate if you consider sticking around, letting me know what kind of content you're interested in. I love approaching the From Software games from a gameplay and like philosophical worldview perspective, from a religious perspective, analyzing themes, and just getting like deeply into these games. And so I'm really interested in what I can do with that on the channel, like what kind of things I can start. So again, if any of that interests you, let me know, comment, like. It really is helpful to small creators like me. If you just consider dropping a like on the video, I would appreciate it so much. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have you stick around. But this has been Credence Plays, and I'm excited to be making this video. I'm excited for the future, and I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you have a good one.